Now, of course, the FBI was caught in other incompetence and I don't know if it's malfeasance yet, but incompetence in not acting on tips that were given to the agency specifically on the Parkland mass shooter. So we had all these demonstrations the other day, but not all directed at taking guns away from law-abiding Americans, as best I can tell, not dealing with the security failures by government agencies in protecting those children and ensuring those security failures don't take place in the future. And along those lines, Judicial Watch received some astonishing documents from the Broward County Sheriff's Department, and it was essentially their operating manual and their training materials on how to deal with an active shooter investigation. And Broward County is the county in which Parkland, the Parkland High School was or is, and famously one of the deputies stood outside the building rather than entering it. Well, you're going to be really upset when you learn about what the actual training is for handling active shooters. Generally speaking, the training is, thankfully, correct, as best I can tell. You confront the shooter as soon as possible. That's what the training is. And this is the really remarkable language from the training materials. I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see it from a distance here. Remember, every time you hear a gunshot in an active shooter incident, you have to believe that another victim is being killed. And that's why the training materials tell the deputies and the officers to go directly to the shooter. And if there are 4 officers there, now we know Peterson was there by himself initially, he didn't go in and confront the shooter. And then even after additional officers showed up, they didn't go in, and it looks like, and confront the shooter. And this is the language that they use. History shows when a suspect is confronted by an armed individual, police, security, concealed carry person. Oh, American citizens can protect themselves. I'm glad the police, sheriff's department recognizes that. They either shoot it out with the person or kill themselves. So just think about that. The goal is to confront the shooter, so the shooter focuses on the law enforcement personnel or the person with the weapon rather than innocent bystanders who are getting shot at. Either way, the shooting, as this document says, of innocent bystanders must stop. Now, the first officer or 2 officers on scene will immediately go to confront the shooter. Military tactics work well in this situation. The 2-man bounding overwatch is our response. I can guess what bounding overwatch is, but my guess is it's a technique for 2 individuals to enter a situation where they may be confronted by an armed person. During Columbine, the response to an ongoing shooting situation was to contain the suspect. After Columbine, the International Chiefs of Police addressed the problem with the response and came up with the quad or diamond formation. So this is the formation that 4 officers are supposed to use. With the quad, the first 4 officers to respond entered the building with coverage in all directions. This was critical to address the concerns of officers who previously would not enter and just wait for SWAT. So if you're there by yourself or there weren't 2 officers, the goal was to save lives and get there quickly. And if there were 4 of you, they developed techniques that could get you in there more safely as law enforcement personnel without having to wait for SWAT. And this is the kicker of the whole piece again, and it's worth emphasizing. If you are on scene or in the area and hear gunshots, you should immediately assess what you have and prepare to respond. Remember, every time you hear a gunshot in an active shooter incident, you have to believe another victim is being killed. Now, I read these documents and I was pretty upset by them, knowing what happened in Parkland. Because either this training was not given to everyone, or the training was not followed through by the deputy or deputies on the scene. And where's the accountability for the sheriff as a result of this training failure? It's a training failure in the least. I mean, the deputy was essentially forced out. He resigned in disgrace. But was he trained? And why did he think he could do the wrong thing? And it's a leadership issue as well, in my view. Another interesting part before I let you go. Again, these are documents the Judicial Watch obtained under the Freedom of Information Law, the Sunshine Law as it's known in Florida. It's a very powerful law. The lesson plan lists priorities in life as 1, hostages victims, 2, innocent bystanders, 3, police deputies, and 4, suspects. And this is what the document says. If in doubt about going through the door after a suspect, think about the victims and where they stand on the list. Time is critical in each of these incidents. This is like no other crime. The motive is to kill as many people as possible in the shortest amount of time. Why? Because the bad guys know we are coming. Where in the discussions about gun control that the anti-Second Amendment types are using, or they're using Parkland to promote gun control, what does this have to do with the documents I just read to you? I tell you, I mean, I was upset that obviously you read these documents and obviously that was not the deputies on the scene, or the initial deputy did not follow up as appropriate and go in and protect and protect those students and personnel there in the school and confront that shooter. But I was pleased to see that at least the training materials make a lot of sense. They make a lot of sense. And this is what I would do if I were you. I'd go to Judicial Watch's website, get this press release, and share it with your elected officials and tell them this is what we need to be focusing on. Because the gun control debate is politics. It doesn't have much to do with public safety. I mean, those of you who follow Second Amendment issues understand that. I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty on that. They're not talking about this. Are law enforcement personnel trained adequately? And will they behave adequately given pressure situations like the active shooter in Parkland? Are there trained individuals armed and trained individuals in the schools that can also confront shooters? So this is what can be done to save lives. Confront the shooter as quickly as possible with an armed response to get him to stop killing people. And those kids that were out there this week skipping school, protesting, being used by these leftist politicians to promote irrelevant gun measures, those kids aren't going to be made more safe by the policies the leftists were using them to promote. This is a discussion that would ensure their safety.